My latest find, it's a 60 gallon. It's not your standard 60 or 55 type aquarium. I guess you can call it like a custom because you typically don't get aquariums in this with these dimensions. This tank is 36, 18, 24. And it's currently, well, it's going to be set up for fancy goldfish. Now I actually found this tank on Facebook Marketplace. I've been wanting to set up a fancy goldfish tank for, I would probably say, for the last several months. Now this tank is an ideal size from the standpoint of larger goldfish. Like if you were doing like comets or even some of the other common type goldfish or koi or some of the shavunkin type goldfish, this tank wouldn't be ideal for that because the tank wouldn't be big enough. You know, those fish grow can grow over a foot or bigger, sometimes even like 2 feet. Some of the koi fish, obviously, but fancies, they still get fairly large. But in a tank, typically, I believe it's like 1 goldfish per 10 to 15 gallons, even for a fancy. So I could probably put 3, maybe 4 at the most in a tank this size. I wouldn't go any more personally, only because I'd want to give them enough room to grow and swim around. So one of the things about goldfish tanks that have been bothering me is that people who set them up, and I this is all personal preference. This isn't anything. Doesn't have anything to do with how people do things or why people do things. It's just my approach. I always try to create like a natural aquarium, no matter what type of fish I put in there. Now, with a fancy goldfish, one of the major concerns with tanks is if you decide to add plants, is that they'll eat them. Now, that I believe is true. I'm sure that people who have purchased them in the past and have added them to plant tanks, they will eat their plants. Now, I believe, or uproot them. Now, one of the things I think what happens is if you put them in and you add them right away, like for example, I just set this tank up yesterday. I literally just filled it with water. When I put these plants in, after I set up the aquascape and so forth, my thirst thought was these plants need to get established. These plants need time to mature and grow. Maybe they'll die back. Maybe they won't make it. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to kind of settle in, get them to grow, root into the substrate. Now this soil that you see here is dirt. Now this top layer though is sand. So there's 1 inch of dirt and 2 inches of black diamond blasting sand. The dirt is a mixture for the father fish method. So I'm a big believer in father fish and his tanks and how he does things. I've been trying to find videos on YouTube on setting up a fancy goldfish tank that is planted, and there's really not a lot out there. And whenever I watch a video with fancy goldfish, I see them in tanks that have gravel. Maybe they'll have no decorations at all. I would say like 90% of the tanks or videos that I've watched, or even the research I've done, I rarely ever see them in a tank with plants. I just see them and maybe it has like a plastic decoration in the middle. It doesn't really have, to me, it's like you need to create a stimulating environment for a fish. Even if you didn't put in plants, I think you need to give them things to do. I go back to a memory when I was a kid. I had goldfish had a couple fancy goldfish. I think it was in a 20-gallon long. And the tank actually got a crack. I remember I was probably like 14, 15 years old. I had one of those little goldfish gold bowls you get at like a fair. It was actually sitting in front of the tank, and it tapped it and it cracked the glass. Now it didn't start leaking right away, but I remember taking the fancy goldfish out of the tank and putting them in a plastic square container. It was actually, I think it was a lid to a record player. Now One of the things I put in this little container was a little bridge. I had a little, like a porcelain bridge, and I put that in this container, and within about a half an hour, adding the water from the tank into this container, the fish were literally swimming over the bridge. The bridge kind of was slightly out of the water. Now, they looked like they were playing and having fun, and I was thinking, that's strange. I wouldn't think that would happen, but they loved it. But anyway, I digress a little bit. But I just wanted to just explain that I think fish need to be stimulated in some level. Now, they're not human beings. They don't need to go on a vacation to Paris or go on a cruise or whatever. But they do need to have stimulation. And if you give them a tank with gravel, you give them a tank with no decoration, all they ever do is just swim. They can't, there's nothing visually or no environment that will give them any type of stimulation that will allow them to enjoy their environment, enjoy where they live. Would you want to live in a house that has just an empty room with nothing in it? I mean, I wouldn't. I'd want to go outside and see nature and see trees and play in the grass, But anyway, in this tank, you'll notice I do have a variety of plants. I have some hair grass. Now, I think this might be one of the first things that will probably get eaten. But I'm not planning on putting any goldfish in this tank, probably for at least a month or two. I'm going to let this tank settle in. I'm going to give these plants a chance to grow and thrive. And the plants that I chose were all hardy type plants. You'll notice that I have some, there's some parrot's feather back there, which I do have rooted. I know that doesn't have to be rooted. I just kind of like the look of it and the substrate. It should grow regardless. I have some Amazon sword. I'm actually going to probably be adding some more. My plan is to add a little bit more Valsinaria in there, maybe some spiral and some regular Valsinaria. I have some Melodia there, onion plant, and some crypts. Now you'll notice there is quite a few crypts. That was actually a mistake. I didn't really want that many, but I said after I've been looking at these, looking at plants for fancies, crypts actually seem to be one of the plants they don't typically eat. And you'll see there's some Java moss, which I attached to that piece of driftwood. It's actually on just in a rubber band. I have some other tanks that have Java moss that it's actually, once you get it attached on there, it will start to spread out. So the plan is to let that kind of expand a little bit and then grow. I added a few snails. They're just some, they're not trumpet snails. Those are ram's horn snails. I added them just the other day. And it's funny, they're actually attached to each other. Some of them down there, there's kind of, I don't know if they're breeding or what they're doing. Hopefully they're not eating each other. But I'm just kind of like let this thing cycle in. So being a father fish tank, the next step for me, now that it's planted, would be, other than adding some more plants, will be to get some small fish. I do have some other tanks that have some White Mountain minnows, and those actually seem to do okay if they're big enough for fancies. I don't think they'll eat them. The other option is I was thinking maybe getting some long fin rosy barbs. Now, rosy barbs, I know some people think barbs will go after fancies' tails. My thought is I have 18 other tanks, and if they did start to chase after them, I would just get them and put them in one of my other tanks. I have a 55 right behind me that they would be fine in with some other fish. But I think what I'm going to do is, from what I read, I think Corey at Aquarium Co-op had a video, and he had rosies with long fin rosies, which kind of slow them down a bit, so they won't be as competitive for food with the fancies. And they're very hardy, and they like the cooler water. So that's the other thing with goldfish, is they do like cool water. Now most of my tanks, just say, are unheated, so the fish will be fine. The room down here stays around 65 degrees. So it does stay at a nice, comfortable temperature. And goldfish are I think they can tolerate warmer water too. I've had koi outside in a pond before that the temperature probably got close to like 80 something degrees, and they were fine in the summertime. So this tank will never get that hot, because obviously there's no heater. So the other thing about the tank I wanted to share was I purchased the tank on Facebook Marketplace, and I got a hell of a deal. It was like $50 with the stand, and the tank actually has this overflow in the back. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to move around. So you can see there's some of my Durso pipes that you have in there. I do like overflows, and I do like water volume. So the plan is to use that overflow. You'll see that I actually did some PVC, and I was able to heat it. I found a video where you can kind of heat the end of the PVC and bend it. So that's just some 3/4 inch. I have not turned it on yet. I was waiting for the 10-gallon sump to dry. So here's a video. Here's a picture of the sump, if it'll scan in. And there is a filter sock. So that middle chamber there is going to be, I have one of those pond baskets that you use for plants, and that's going to have lava rock in there. And that area over there is the return. One thing nice about sumps is you are able to keep the media and have increase the water volume. And I'll have the option to have lava rock in there. I'll be able to do whatever I want. I can add more sponges. It's really nice to have that flexibility to be able to add things and adjust things as I need it. And on my Mbuna tank I actually have lava rock down there with a pothos growing in it. It's a massive size pothos. I have another pothos that's actually getting acclimated to water. I'm going to put that in here. I'm actually not going to probably add that for a little bit until these plants get a chance to kind of thrive a bit. I want to save the nutrients for the plants. If I put the pothos in, I'll pull a lot out of the water column from the standpoint of nitrates and stuff. So I want to let these plants do their job. Get the fish in there, let them add to the fish poo to the soil or to the sand to get that to grow. So the other piece of this that I wanted to share was, like I mentioned, I did get it on Facebook Marketplace, but it was like $60 or $50, I should say. So it included the tank, it included the stand, and the sand. And the sand actually had a lot of this like blue gravel in there, mixed in with the black diamond. So I'm not a big fan of gravel, especially in a father fish, but there's just a few little spatterings of it. So I kind of left it. I didn't seem to really look that bad. If anything, it kind of I wanted to kind of give myself a reminder of what it could be. A lot of times with goldfish, they just get gravel, and that's pretty much all they ever have. They just sift through gravel all day, and that's basically the extent of life. Or maybe not even that, they get a bare bottom. And again, I don't care what people. I don't have any problem with people who do it. It's basically it's your personal preference. It's just for me, I like to be able to bring nature. Like this piece of wood came from nature. I found this on a hike with my son. There was a little stream, actually just for a bike. We just went for a ride, and we were talking and walking along this little stream, and this was kind of laying off to the side and washed up from a storm. But it's a really cool piece of wood. It has some, has some nice texture to it. I think it has some nice shape. I like the visual appeal of it, the visual look. It has some other branches that stem out. It's like kind of a root, and there's some. I think it has some real neat thing. Now these rocks also came from nature, so these two small round rocks, and so these were actually outside, including the plant in like a tote. So I had a tote that had the plant. I had a tote that had the wood and the rocks. So I thought it'd be nice to bring that in. So they were obviously in an established tote. It's been running for several months. Actually, it's been probably running it's been outside for over a year. So these have tons of beneficial bacteria growing on them. There could have been other things in there, mosquito larvae, copepods, and amphipods, and so forth. So there's a lot of living organisms that were living on this material that I brought in, because I want to create an environment that will allow these fish to have some natural food. So as this tank matures and these plants start to get bigger, the goldfish will have a food web. I had put some leaves in there. I don't know if you can see, there's a few leaves floating around. Again, that material is going to break down too. So I have a food web. I have other tanks. I have other resurrection jars, resurrection containers that are a food web, and it's going to grow. And the last part of this I wanted to share with these lights. So I was able to find these lights on Amazon. It was like $13, and these are the under cabinet lights. If you can see that there's 2 LED strips on these. And the thing that's really, so I have this just sitting on top a piece of acrylic. Now they're not really supposed to get wet, but the acrylic will protect them, which is nice. And they do, as you can see, the tank is getting tons of light. So I'm not really concerned. I have other tanks that use like shop lights, and the plants do amazingly well. I planted the tanks that you wouldn't even, if I were to show you the video from the very beginning and now, we wouldn't recognize it. So, but I'm really happy with how the tank turned out, and looking forward to adding the goldfish at some point. But I just wanted to share the starting point, and maybe in about a month or 2, I'll take a new video of the plants and see how much they've grown. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like, and add any comments and feedback. I look forward to reading everything, and you guys have yourself a great day.